where your bitch is. Cooking up dope in the park.
YouTube, how the fuck we doing? It is your boy, Uncle Ziffy, back again. I know, this is crazy. Back again with another episode this quick. Today, it is episode 9. We are doing UFC 299 breakdown. So I'm just going to kind of go through the main card and a couple of the prelims, give my thoughts and opinions. I have some notes written down that I'm going to kind of go over, so... Alrighty, so before the video starts, if you guys could please drop a like, subscribe, comment, give me your feedback. Like I said in the last video, it does really help me out as a content creator and an athlete to kind of gauge, if you guys are liking this content, if this content sucks ass. So definitely be sure to give some feedback, and I will always reply, always try to give you guys my response to you. So I appreciate it. Now let's just hop into the breakdown. So we have a pretty stacked card. I'm actually going to pull it up on my computer right here. So I have my own notes, but we're just going to start out with the main card. So we'll start kind of from the bottom to the top. Let me go over to my other notes. So first fight we are going to start with is Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. So this... very interesting fight. Obviously, Petr has lost, I believe, his last 3. Song Yadong has some pretty good wins up at 135. So Petr being the former champ. Alrighty, so I have some notes right here. Some notable wins from each of these amazing fighters. I'm a big fan of Petr Yan, big fan of Song, not as much as I am a fan of Petr. Some of Yan's notable wins are obviously the fight that he had with Corey Sandhagen. That's an absolute banger of a fight. If you guys haven't seen that fight, definitely go recommend watching that on Fight Pass. Jose Aldo, who he beat for the belt. Uriah Faber, he knocked him out with that crazy front kick. Jimmy Rivera and John Dodson. So Yan has got some pretty high level wins under his belt on his resume. Now if we pivot over to Songs, he's got wins over Chris Gutierrez, Ricky Simone, Marlon Moraes, Casey Kenny, and Chito Vera, which is will definitely come back later in the main event. Very interesting. So I have some stats written down, stuff that I thought was pretty interesting when I was breaking these two fighters down. So for Petr Yan, Petr has about five significant strikes landed per minute to Song's 4.38. So they're pretty even there. I see that probably playing in Peter's favor. He's very high volume, has a lot of power. So I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against each other. Song's recent fights, he's been more of a pocket fighter. So Petr seems to do good against that style, definitely with his Muay Thai base and his kind of long framing kind of posture. So I thought that was interesting. For the strikes absorbed per minute, Song Yadong has actually less. Petr absorbs about 4.26 strikes every. I don't know where that metric was based on. Significant strikes absorbed per minute. 4 strikes absorbed per minute. And then Song has about 3, or 3.5. So definitely they're pretty evenly matched. So it means Petr gets hit just a little bit more than Song does. But Peter's got great defense. Song's got great defense. This is just going to be an absolute banger of a fight. I have 2 more interesting stats that I thought that I would write down. Again, these are pretty even, so I just wrote down the ones that kind of stood out to me. Petr has about 0.74 knockdowns per 15 minutes, so he's almost at 1 knockdown per 3-round fight, and Song has about 0.63. So this is an interesting stat that I actually wrote down for a couple other fights too. Knockdowns per 15 minutes, so that's knockdowns per 3-round fight. Definitely an interesting metric there. Petr edges him just a little bit. And then the last one is going to be the takedown defense. So obviously Petr has fought Aljo, who has some crazy, incredible grappling. So his takedown defense is still 85% to Song's 73%. So Peter's definitely very good at defending takedowns on the cage, defending takedowns in open space. So it'll be interesting. I really don't think a lot of grappling will happen here in this fight, just based on, you know, the last couple fights that we've seen from either or from both of these gentlemen. So my pick for this fight will be Yan by decision, but that can also change too. I kind of have Yan by decision or by TKO. But that's definitely not a knock on Song Yadong. He's a, you know, incredibly gifted fighter. I just think Peter's been around a little bit longer, a little bit, you know, more of a veteran in that division. So I would like to see Peter get it done. So that is my pick for that fight. Oh, so Peter's minus 130. So he is the favorite, and then Song is plus 110. So he'll be the underdog. Still very close. Almost a pick'em fight. So that is definitely one to watch out. That is the opening fight on the main card. Kudos to the UFC for putting this together. We are going to move to the welterweights. That will be Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Absolute banger of a fight. I'm a big fan of Gilbert Burns. Met him in person, so he's a great guy, awesome person. I fucking can't even read my handwriting, dude. Alrighty, so I have interesting stats for them as well. There's only one for Burns and Maddalena. Other than that, they are pretty close, and I don't think Jack has as many stats or stat percentages on the UFC's website, so I wasn't really able to pull too many. This one I did find interesting, though, is Burns has a 29% win by KO TKO. Jack Della Maddalena has almost an 80% win by TKO or KO TKO. It's 79%. So definitely a big discrepancy there. I definitely see, you know, that making sense from all of Jack's previous fights. You know, he's a very tight, very closed-in boxer. He's got crazy combos. Just really polished, honestly, as a striker. Very polished, has some crazy entries and you know, all that sort of stuff. So I'm a big fan of him. Now we'll kind of move to the notable wins. I'm sorry if this is kind of like brain rot, kind of all over the place. I tried to, you know, kind of have a structure, but there's not too much of a structure. I kind of just went over notable wins and kind of some of the statistics that I thought were interesting. So the notable wins on Burns' side would be Jorge Masvidal. That was a pretty good fight. I thought it was kind of boring, but definitely a good fight. Neil Magny, Wonder Boy. He's also beaten Damian Maia and Gunnar Nelson, so he definitely has some good names under his belt at welterweight. Now, if we pivot over to Jack, he hasn't been in the UFC as long, so his isn't going to be as extensive as Gilbert's. Gilbert's been in the top 5 for a while. Very high-level fighter. Jack has wins over Holland, which was questionable. I'll definitely give it that. You know, that fight wasn't, you know, too entertaining. Obviously, some good striking back and forth. I think that Holland won that fight, but to each their own. He has a good knockout over Randy Brown and not Roosevelt Roberts. Who the fuck is Roberts? Who the fuck is Roberts? Danny Roberts, I think it is. Yes, Danny Roberts. Okay, I think he has a knockout over Danny Roberts, Randy Brown. So, yeah, Jack's got some pretty cool highlight reels or some pretty cool highlight wins on his belt. My pick for that fight would be Burns via unanimous decision. Only reason I say that is just because of Jack's last performance against Holland. Like I said, was a little bit of a lackluster fight. I know Burns has some incredible output. Obviously, that fight with Hamzat, if you go and watch that, that was fucking amazing fight, so definitely recommend watching that one. I just have Burns by unanimous decision, and then I think the odds on this one are a pick'em. Yeah, they're both minus 110, so it was basically a pick'em fight at the moment. Nobody really knows who's gonna win, so I just picked Burns because he's been around longer. He's been at the top for a little bit longer, and he's got some good names under his belt. So we're going with good old Gilbert Burns. Making our way up the card, this is definitely going to be an interesting fight right here. So we pivot over to some more welterweights. This one definitely is significant in the fact that it's MVP's first UFC fight, UFC debut. He's been in Bellator for a long time, you know, have had highlights that transcend MMA in general. Crazy fighter. I'm a big MVP fan. I'm also a big Kevin Holland fan. So this should be a good fight. I do have, so here are some of the stats that I thought were interesting. We have strikes absorbed per minute. Kevin is at 3.2. Michael Venom Page is at 0.45. So he doesn't really get hit a lot. He's got a lot of good head movement with that kind of karate taekwondo style that he has. Kevin does get hit, obviously being, you know, kind of stagnant, a little bit more still, but he's still got some good movement as well. So I thought that one was interesting. As for strike defense, MVP again wins this one with a 77% strike defense compared to Kevin Holland's 51%. So not a terrible discrepancy there, but definitely notable on the side of MVP. And then the last one that I thought was interesting, this one is literally just about tied. This is significant strikes landed per minute. Kevin Holland is at 4.3 and MVP is at 4.53. So they are right neck and neck, right at basically the exact same. So it'll be interesting to see how this fight plays out. Both long, kind of rangy fighters. Some notable wins that Kevin has, obviously that knockout over Jacare Souza, Tim Means, Alex Oliveira, and obviously that very good fight between Joaquin Buckley and Kevin Holland. That was definitely very, very funny. Yeah, Kevin Loudmouth is just like his name says, he's a talker, so expect him to definitely throw some words in MVP's way. But I think MVP embraces it. I think he definitely will try to talk back and hit Kevin Holland and his big loud mouth. So MVP has a couple of notable wins that I think a lot of you will probably know. Douglas Lima. Obviously, notably, he got knocked out by Douglas Lima, but he does have a win over him and Paul Daly. So those are two that I could find from MVP that I thought everybody would probably know. So my pick might be a little biased. I have kind of two different outcomes I see for this fight. I see MVP by KO or TKO. Obviously, if he catches Holland, he does hit pretty hard. He's a big boy. He's very rangy and very good and precise with his strikes. But I also could see Kevin winning by decision. So I kind of have two there. That's not really fair because, you know, you're supposed to have one. But I could see that fight kind of going one of two ways. Now we make our way to the very, very interesting co-main event. So Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Let's hope I am. I could just call him BSD. Honestly, that would probably be easier. So we will move on right there. Dustin has honestly, when I was doing the research for this, Dustin has a crazy, crazy resume. If you guys haven't seen it, I would definitely go take a look at his record and just, you know, all the fights that he's been in. Good God, that man is a fucking warrior. So is, not to say that Benoit isn't, but Dustin is definitely a dog. So this one, like I said in the last one, they were pretty evenly matched on statistics. One that I did pull out that I thought was interesting is knockdowns per 15 minutes, kind of the same stat that I had for Peter Yan and Song Yadong. God, that's hard to say 5 fucking times. So Dustin has about 0.63 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and Benoit has 1.4 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So definitely some striking. What I noticed when I was kind of watching both of their fights is they do their best work on the cage. Notably, obviously, Dustin knocked Conor out by pushing him up against the cage and landing those calf kicks that kind of, you know, fucked Conor's leg up. And then obviously the finishing sequence was along the cage. But Benoit is kind of the same way. Obviously that last fight he had against Matt Frevola, he kind of backed him up to the cage, and as Frevola was exiting, kind of chased him and hit him with that head kick. So a lot of the fights that I've seen from both of these dudes, it seems like they both try to back each other or back their opponents up against the cage and kind of unload against the cage. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that dynamic plays out to, you know, kind of cage brawlers going head to head. I think will definitely be pretty interesting. Some notable wins for each of these fighters. Obviously, Dustin's is going to be a lot more extensive. He's got some crazy wins. Wins over Mike Chandler, obviously 2 times over Conor, 2 times over Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis. The list honestly goes on. Like I said, definitely go take a look at all of these fights I just mentioned. Dustin's been in some wars. I mean, he's an absolutely amazing fighter. And then some on BSD side, we have Matt Frevola, Thiago Moises, who notably fought Islam Makhachev. I think he took Islam down, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go rewatch that fight, but I think he did. Ismail Bonfim, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Not too sure. Yeah, definitely some good names under both. Matt Frevola notably is a pretty good fighter. Bonfim and Moises, those are all good names, but they don't really stack up to Dustin's long list that he's kind of gotten there. So the betting odds on this one are honestly pretty interesting. People have BSD as a -130 favorite, and then Dustin is a +110 underdog. So again, pretty even. Nothing too crazy right there. Again, yeah, pretty even. So I think that was just like the MVP fight. It's almost a pick'em fight at that point. So yeah, very, very close. Hard to say. My pick for that fight is Dustin by KO TKO. Reason for that just being that he's been in the UFC for a much longer time, has quite a lot more experience, was the interim champion at one point, fought Khabib. He's had a lot of fights, fought Oliveira for the belt. I mean, Dustin's been around the block, I guess you could say. So I have him by KO TKO. I don't really know how that's going to happen. I just kind of see it playing out like that. I have seen BSD get hit in some of his fights, and I've seen him get rocked. He's a tough motherfucker, but he's been rocked and kind of came back. But it'll be interesting to see, because when Dustin hits people, they go down. So Dustin by KO TKO, and now we are moving to the main event. This is, one of the fights that I've been waiting on for a while. We have Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera. So this is obviously a rematch of their first fight. Chito obviously won that via TKO. Kind of what happened was he kicked Sean. He had some pretty good leg kicks early on that kind of fucked Sean's, I think it was his left foot up. So if you go back and watch that fight, Sean keeps rolling his ankle and kind of twists it and contorts it in a bunch of fucked up ways. It was honestly pretty hard to watch, being a big fan of Sean. This one's hard, man, because we don't really have too much to go off of from that first fight. Sean was landing some very, very good body kicks early on, some good 1-2s, some good just long, lengthy strikes. So it's hard to say. So some interesting stats that I pulled out. Again, I have the knockdowns per 15 minutes, your knockdown average. Sean is at a pretty boastful 1.14 knockdowns per 15 minutes, where Chito is at 0.63. So definitely interesting there. That kind of weighs in the side of Sean, even though they're both, pretty good knockout artists. And then we move on to significant strikes landed per minute. Sean has one of the highest I've honestly seen out of this entire list. Sean has 7.25 significant strikes landed per minute, where Chito also has a pretty high count, 4.37 significant strikes landed per minute. So Sean definitely beats him over there. Sean is a lot of volume. He hits hard, so that definitely makes a lot of sense. Now we move on to strikes absorbed per minute. This also is very interesting. Sean is at 3.51, whereas Chito is at 5.16. So Chito gets hit definitely a little bit more than Sean does. He kind of, I heard Corey Sandhagen kind of explain it best. When Chito kind of gets backed up or is getting, hit with those long shots that he can't really see, he does what we call in the MMA community as a hunker. So he'll tuck his chin down. I'm sorry, I got to bring the mic closer. He'll bring his chin down, bring both of his guards up, and kind of just sit in this little shell right here to where he can defend pretty well. But that will obviously give you some openings to the legs, openings to the body. So I definitely see Sean capitalizing on that. I'm sure he probably watched that Corey fight pretty extensively. And this fight, honestly, is just kind of weird, right? So Marlon's ranked number 5. He just recently got beat by Corey Sandhagen. Sean is the newly crowned champion, just knocked out Aljamain Sterling. So this is kind of like a pick-me fight, right? So Sean obviously wants that win back from Chito. So he called him up to defend his belt against, which I think he's probably going to be successful. So obviously I don't want to spoil my pick too early. One of the last notable things that I pulled from the statistics was takedown defense. So Sean is sitting right about 62%, whereas Chito is sitting right about at 70. So Chito has higher takedown defense, which I thought was interesting. So obviously do with that information what you will. Some notable wins on each side side for O'Malley would be Aljo, Peter Yan, Raulian Paiva, Thomas Almeida, and then Eddie Wineland. Obviously, that spectacular knockout he hit against Eddie Wineland. And then on Cheeto's side, he also definitely has some notable wins. Excuse my dog. It's not my dog, but our dog. He's a little bit of a loudmouth. Cheeto he's got some notable wins over Pedro Munoz, that knockout over Dominic Cruz that was brutal. Rob Font, he busted him up pretty good. Knocked out Frankie Edgar and then Davey Grant. So Cheeto's got honestly a pretty good resume as well. I'd take nothing away from Cheeto. Cheeto's a very good fighter. He's very aggressive, very in your face. So I'm really excited to see kind of how this one plays out. Like I said earlier, it is kind of a pick-me fight, but I definitely think Cheeto has some tools to win. It's just dependent on if he uses those tools correctly, and if he can get and navigate around Sean's length and his expertise at being a long, lengthy striker. So obviously my pick, I already spoiled it. It's going to be Sean by TKO or decision. If he, can't drop Cheeto, which I don't see him not being able to do. Cheeto's tough and he's very gritty, but Sean is, very lengthy and long striker. So I think he can do it, but if he is unable, I definitely see him winning a decision over Cheeto. Other than that, that's all I really have for the breakdown. Now, this is the first one I've ever done, so it's probably not going to hold a torch to all of your other favorite YouTubers, but that doesn't mean that I can't, come on here and make my own. So, I do definitely enjoy watching UFC. I enjoy, kind of the ins and outs of fighting, obviously being a fighter myself. So it was interesting definitely to go through and kind of break these fights down. Oh, I forgot the betting odds for Cheeto and Sean. Sean is the favorite, -205, and Cheeto is the underdog, +170. So you guys do that. Do with that what you will. Other than that, yeah, I don't think I have too much more. I was going to break down some of the prelims. Curtis Blades. Here, I guess I can kind of break them down real quick. These are kind of just extra. Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida. Very good fight. Curtis hits hard, but is mainly a wrestler. Jailton has some very, very good striking, albeit he's been in some pretty boring fights. So I'd probably lean more towards Jailton just because he's a big, heavy hitter. But if he shows any of the weaknesses that we saw in those kind of lackluster fights, I definitely can see Curtis winning. So the odds for that fight, basically a pick 'em, -112 for your boy Blades and -108 for Jailton. Holy shit. All right, these two, these are also very, very good fights. I just didn't really have the time to break them down. I know some people asked for them, so I apologize. We have Mateusz Gamrot versus RDA. So that's a very, very good fight. Honestly, that's a banging fight. The betting odds are -250 for Gamrot and +205 for Rafael. So he's the underdog. But yeah, very good fighters. Rafael, obviously, notably being the former lightweight champ, and Mateusz has some pretty good wins under his belt, kind of the next generation of lightweight up and coming. So, yeah, they've both been in some crazy, crazy fights. I don't really have too many notes written. I actually don't have any notes written down for them. I'm not going to sit here and say that I do. I mean, I have a blank page that I was going to write. So, this one's interesting, right? So Rafael's getting a little bit older. Right here it says, how old is this motherfucker? You're not going to tell me how old he is? Oh, you fuck. That's okay. I don't know how old he is. I just know that he's getting up there. I think he's 37, 38. So it'll be interesting to see how he sticks around in the division. Obviously, very, very good striker, very good kind of everywhere. So, definitely interesting and interesting to see how he does against the next generation at lightweight. But Gamrot has, kind of been known to have some holes in his game too. So it'll be interesting to see if he kind of covered those up and patched those up to, take on the veterans of this division. So my pick for that one, I'll probably lean more towards RDA. I've seen, Gamrot do or have a couple mistakes that I think RDA can capitalize on, but like I said, if Gamrot, covered those holes, it's going to be a tough night for RDA. So last one we'll go over. This one, obviously, another good fight in the bantamweight division. My boy Kyler Phillips actually used to train at his gym at the MMA lab, so obviously going to lean more towards his way just because I've met him and talked to him in person. But Pedro Munoz is a great fighter as well. Kyler's real flashy, spinning back kicks, spinning hook kicks, head kicks, uppercuts, all that sort of stuff. So very flashy. I would assume that he's probably trying to go for a highlight knockout or highlight reel knockout, but he does have some very, very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very, very good grappling as a whole. So I would not sleep on Kyler Phillips if this fight goes to the ground. But Pedro's been around the block, arguably arguably one of the better guys in that division too. He had that weird fight with Sean where he got poked in the eye, but has that knockout over Cody Garbrandt when Cody was kind of exiting his prime. So yeah, it honestly, it's just so many good fights, so many good fighters to watch. I don't know why you wouldn't watch this card. This is literally the prelims. So, yeah, these are going to be some banging fights. This one, let me see the betting odds. Pedro's a plus 160, so he's the dog, and Kyler is minus 192. So my pick for this one, Kyler Phillips by KO, TKO, or submission. But definitely could see Pedro winning it as well. I know I'm not really decisive on these, but I'm around fighting. Anything can happen in a fight. Tables turn very, very fast. So I always like to leave up or give options to how it will end. But I do have Kyler by KO, TKO, or submission. And that will just about do it. So now definitely I would appreciate a lot if, let me just get this out of the way. I'd appreciate it a lot if you guys did give me some feedback on this kind of style of breakdown content, because obviously it is my first one. I've never done, a breakdown or anything like this for the UFC. I definitely could do more. I definitely want to do more, but I want to make sure that you guys enjoy it and enjoy kind of how I present it. If there's anything that you see that you think I can work on, if there's anything that you don't like, please leave it down. I'm open to constructive criticism. Don't just be a dick. Because I will call you out if you're just being a dick. But other than that, yeah, that was my UFC 299 picks. So I will kind of be on social media releasing kind of my betting or my picks, I guess you could say. Sorry, I fucking forgot the word. I'll be releasing my picks, so definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm usually on Twitter quite a lot. I'm on MMA Twitter quite a lot, so that's usually where I'm more active. But always active on Instagram and on the others as well. Other than that, yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Ziffy Show, episode 9. And yeah, if you guys could, please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all my socials. Not up there. It's actually going to be down there. And yeah, leave a comment. I appreciate you guys. I love what I do. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Deuces.